All right. So, GAMPRG2. Um, yeah. GAMPRG2, you guys went to GAMPRG1, probably under Sir David, and it's almost the same. Literally, your first project is the same project, which is the Endless Runner. However, it will be in C++, but you'll have a completely different um, project too, right? So, course outline, you have Unreal Engine in C++. You will learn about event dispatchers using C++, and then we'll talk about data-driven code where we we code in a way so that we can have what we call data assets where our designers can simply just change these values, not having to actually enter a blueprint, no, to change these values. Like it's literally just a asset in the game, so that they can change like the game settings, the maybe behavior. Like maybe if you instead of like 5 seconds uh before returning back to a state, it will take 2 seconds. Yung mga ganun. So that's like data-driven code. So what do we need? Um, may I ask um what versions of Unreal Engine did you use for GAMPROG 1? Because from what I heard last from the other group, from the other class, it is different. It really depends on like who. Depends on the person. I think 5.2 or 5.5, right? Others stayed at 4. Um, yeah. So what I want kasi I want to turn to 5 to Unreal Engine 5, right? And just so everyone is on the same page, I want everyone to use 5.4.x. So the X, I think right now is 4, 5.4.4, ata? Or is it 5.4.6? So whichever is the updated version of 5.4, let's go use that. So why specifically 5.4? More of like just check. I researched a bit which one is the most stable within all the Unreal Engine 5 versions. Right now, from what I saw, is sabi daw 5.4. So, ayan. We'll be using 5.4. Next, you actually need Visual Studio. So, Visual Studio, you can either use 2019 or 2022. You can do that. If you want to use JetBrains or any other text editor, right? Go ahead. You can even use Notepad++. Would it be easier? No, to be so much harder for you. But yeah, I mean, yeah, you have that option. So there's that. Then finally, for your repository program, you could use fork, you could use source tree. Anything is fine as long as you are comfortable with it. Okay, questions with this one for our required software? None, none, none. All good. Okay, so attendance. So I'm pretty chill naman when it comes to attendance. As long as I see you here at the start and at the end of the class, then you should be fine. Okay. So I don't mind if you're late by a few minutes or whatnot. I won't have any uh, late attendance. But what we'll have is only absent or present. So if I don't see your name in the start or at the end, okay, or not start and end. So at the start or at the end of the class, then I will deem you as absent. Okay? So yung mga classes naman natin it lasts for an hour and a half at most. Today might be an hour and a half. Today will be probably an hour and a half, but it doesn't really reach longer than that because um, after an hour, medyo mahirap na mag-focus. Okay? So FTA, to get FTA, you should be above two, two absences, more than two absences. So if you were absent twice, you should be fine. If you're absent more than twice, then you will be considered as FTA, failure due to absence. Okay? So again, if you get absent more than twice, uh, FTA ka na. Now, if you are gonna be absent for a reason, you can just simply message me. Message me beforehand na, sir, I won't be able to, I'm okay. That'll be fine naman for me. As long as you tell me in ahead of time, then it'll be fine. Uh, Hopefully naman yung reasoning mo should be, within the terms of why I mean a good reason, no, why you'll be absent. If sasabihin mo absent ka because you're gonna play something, maybe not, right? But maybe if you're gonna be absent because you're gonna visit your maybe um you have to go to the I don't know cemetery at 6 p.m. I don't know, or maybe you have to visit someone who's sick, or maybe you're sick or whatnot. Just you can just tell me ahead of time. If I deem it as a good reason, then I'll accept it. Okay, so I'm not really strict about it. Just tell me. Just tell me in advance. So that's our attendance. Final graded criteria will be 20% Project 1, which is literally just Endless Runner, but in C++, fully in C++. And then 80% is Project 2, Tower Defense. Now, I want you guys to not um be chill about this Project 1. When I mean do not be chill, I want you guys to do Project 1. Sure, it is only 20%, but 20% is quite big if you think that to pass is you need at least 70%. So if you didn't do anything for project 1, you're left with an allowance of just 10%. Now, that 10% is kind of hard for project 2. Why? At most cases, students finish project 2 with around uh at around milestone 5 out of 8. So that is around 60 something. Yeah, around 60 something percent. And if you think about it, 60% of 80 is 40, around 50. No, that should be 60. Wait. 60% of 80. What's 60% of 80? 48%, something. Is that right? 48, 44, 5, 6. Basta. It's gonna be low. Project 2 it's gonna be quite hard, especially when it comes to milestones 5, milestone 6. There's a huge spike in that. So do not skimp on the project 1. Try your best in finishing project 1 so that in project 2 you're not gonna be pressured to to finish project 2 because again, project 2 is quite hard, but it you need to learn about how to code kasi when it comes to project 2. So it's not just about coding C++, but learning how to code in general. Let's say Project 2, again, uses both C++ and Blueprint, and it implements advanced game mechanics. Okay, it will take longer than usual. Okay, questions about here, final grade criteria, or maybe questions from the previous slide? None. So midterm, it's just Project 1. Whatever your grade is in midterms will not reflect naman ano yung grade mo sa finals. If you get R in midterms, you could still pass final. You could still pass GAMPRG2 if you get R in midterms, but it's considerably more. It's much harder to pass if you don't do anything for Project 1. Okay? So the rubrics for Project 2, 60% will be requirements. The 60% of this is literally the milestones of Project 2. Then for the remaining, code quality, aesthetics, and UX, yun yung build na yun. So code quality, I'll be checking how clean your code is. If um if I see if it's efficient, or if I see how clean it is, ayun, that's code quality. If I see that you've used a advanced kind of technique, no, when when coding in both Blueprint or C++, then I will give you that code quality, the 20%. Next, aesthetics. Aesthetics, because you have the choice for Project 2 to either use your own or use the provided data or assets, sorry. No, you could use yung provided na assets, na 3D assets to for the towers or for the enemies. You could do that, or you could just download online. So that's your aesthetics. So kailangan may visual and audio. Audio, that's gonna be on you. You're gonna be the one who provides the audio. But visual, there will be a provided uh 3D assets naman. And finally, UX, user experience, because the milestones require you to have these these features in your game. However, it's up to you on how you implement it. Like either you can have a collapsible toolbar, maybe, or you can have uh, or the text are clean or whatnot. Ayun. So that's UX. As long as it gives proper feedback and a good looking UI, that's your UX. Right. So that's Project 2 rubrics. If you have any questions, feel free to just message here and anything, either here or the previous slides. Now this one is literally just the breakdown for each, how I grade it. Now, um, you can read through this naman later on, but yeah. So how will you submit? So for submitting, you need to we're gonna use GitLab. Now, can I ask if everyone has a GitLab account? Does everyone does everyone have a GitLab? Okay, at least two of you, none. Okay. Um, sige. We're still gonna use GitLab. There's a tutorial naman how to create a account. Now, if you have a problem in creating an account, because last term when I had Android programming and uh, I asked people to create a GitLab account, they had a problem because they needed now to use a card for some reason. I don't want you to to use any card at all. in trying to create an account. So if you have a problem in creating account, please do tell me, and then we'll try to resolve it. If worst case scenario is, I'll just have you use another repository, maybe GitHub or Bitbucket. Okay, so is it same as GitHub? S- yeah, I mean it's a repository, so yeah, it is a bit same like GitHub. It's you just have yeah, you have to try it out muna. So yeah, for the two of you, uh, try creating it. There's a I think I posted them on a tutorial about it in Big Sky. This is OT1. Oh, there. I think it's here. Yeah, the register, use Google. Yeah, yeah. So, andito naman. It's in the setting up Git repository. Okay? So, there's that. So, let me know. Let me know if you have a problem so that we can adjust. So, yeah, GitLab, then you're just going to have to set your repository to private. Then, uh, add me as a developer. Okay? So, right now, wag mo muna create yung yung repository nyo. I mean, yung for this project, repository for this project. Because I have to change pa uh, this one. This should be OT1. All right. So this is gonna be 25. Okay. So you can do that later on. Next, milestone. So milestones here are self-paced. I'm not sure how it went with Sir David, but here, as long as you finish the milestone, I mean, there's no deadline. Right. If you submit it, I have the due dates there. But if you submit naman after the due date, there you don't have any deduction naman. So it's self-paced. There's no deadline. But there is a deadline for the whole project. Now, after the last milestone, I won't accept any more submission of milestones after the last milestone. Now, the thing is about this, it's not good and all. However, there's this one where that any succeeding milestones will only be credited if the previous milestones were accomplished. So if you submitted, let's say on the last day of submission, you submitted milestones 1 to 5. If milestones 2 to 5 are okay, however, you have a problem with milestone 1, I cannot grade milestones 2 to 5. Literally zero ka because milestone 1 already has a problem. And that's already last day of submission. Okay? So kahit na you submitted milestones 1, 2, or 3, if you have a problem with milestone 1, I cannot grade milestones 2 and 3. Sure, I can give a feedback, but zero ka pa rin sa milestones na yun. Now, I require that all the milestones should be stable. There should not be any problems. Uh, should be functional. Uh, yeah. Next, you don't have to defend your code naman. Um, I'll be checking in on your code. Unless if I think you are cheating, then I will have you defend your code. Now, uh, in here, it's kind of hard to cheat here, especially that code, especially in Project 2, no? Project 2 kasi everyone has a different way of encoding Project 2. Project 1 is measured the same way because they actually have a what you call this? Instructions on how to do stuff. So, halos parehas naman yung code nyo, Project 1. Project 2, however, kind of different, very different. I'll know right away if you are copying from someone. Right? Questions here for milestones? Submitting the milestones? None? Okay. Final build, as long as you reached a requirement grade of 50%, we can check, I can check your final build. So why 50%? If you think about it, uh, 80% si, dito? 80% of your grade for for project 2. I mean, project 2 is 80% of your final grade. If you only do 50% of it, that is literally just 40% of your final grade. And then your project 1 is only 20%. You don't reach the passing mark of 70%. So there's no use for me to check if you are not even able to submit at least 50% of project 2. Now, you don't have to be present for submission, but I do require that you have a commit and a repository. I need to see how you were able to work on the project. So what you do, try your best in trying to always commit into your repository. Always try to push your changes so that not only does it help you in maintaining your code so that it doesn't get uh it doesn't accidentally get lost, or at least you can always fall back to a previous version if ever something bad happens. Not only that, but I can see for myself that you are working on the project, because especially if I find the biglang you submitted everything in one go, for me it's a little bit sus. And then if it's sus, it ends up me just trying to make sure that your code is really yours. Okay, questions, clarification? None. Okay. So yeah, that's intro for about GAMPRG2. Uh, does anyone have a question from anything that we just talked about here? Everything clear? If everything's clear, we can continue naman to the next part of our discussion. Yeah? Okay. So, clear naman lahat. In that case, let us go through our second part, which is introduction to Unreal C++. So this one, I don't require you to memorize everything that we're about to go through. There will be parts that you do have to remember, but you can always check this PowerPoint again to refresh, to refresh your memory on what you need to, what you need to use or something. But I don't require you to memorize everything that I'm about to talk about, especially the first part, which is just me discussing uh, about C++. Okay. So if you have any questions, again, feel free to message here. Or if you want, but I won't keep on going back to here. You can play a soundboard few I don't know, back so that I would know that you have a question or something. Okay. So Unreal C++. Uh, yeah, this from my from Sir Deng, but it still is true now and for me, and also until for Unreal 5. So blueprints versus C++. So why should you use C++? Why should you use C++? Now, C++ offers the maximum flexibility. You have more control in C++ than in Blueprint. For Blueprint, you are kind of constrained with all the available functions and whatnot of Unreal. But in C++, you are able to do you're able to both use the functions of Unreal and you're also able to do anything that is C++ related. So you have that. Your for loops will not also look like uh, spaghetti code in C++. It is the loops in C++ is way is more readable than the for loops in Blueprint. And next, get is good for writing a base class. Uh, what does this mean? With this, your when I see your header, when you check your header file, you immediately know what what are the functionalities of this class, what does the class have, what kind of um, what components are being used. It shows that right away. Unlike in Blueprint, you may have to go through everything just to understand what what the class does. No. Next, complex algorithms and mathematical expressions are better in code than in visual. So especially, let's say, example, I'm not sure if you've done this before, like Digextras or A star. No, if you try to code it in Blueprint, maybe it will look really bad. You probably have lots of lines going everywhere. It's gonna be medyo maging spaghetti code. But if you code in C++, it is much more readable, much more understandable, and uh yeah, you're able to do complex things, complex algorithms, much cleaner. Then you have blueprints will especially exponentially spaghettify within a short time. So this may not hold true when you did GAMPRG1, since your the games sorry, the projects were not that complex. No. However, when you start working with Unreal, when you start working on creating a your own game, and let's say you added more functionalities, it could spaghettify. It could make your code look really messy with all the lines everywhere. Maybe it can go from one custom event to another custom event. Ayun. So it will look very messy. Next, you have easier and more encapsulation code. So in here, you can practice more of using private, using public, using protected. You can practice that more. You can actually do that in Blueprint. You just have to tick the right box for making it either private, protected. I'm not sure if there's a tick for being protected or not. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not sure about that. Then maximum potential performance. So programmers still need to know how to optimize. So ayun nga, you could potentially have better performance in C++ than in Blueprint. Um, as long as you know how to code it para it's the most optimized way. In Blueprint, it may be hard to do it, and you're also constrained with again the functions of Unreal. So you may not be able to do that. And in code, however, it is possible. Next, it's easy to pinpoint bugs. It's easy to miss some things in Blueprint. Um, in code, you can easily just read, not just easily read through the code mismo, and you'll find out, oh, maybe there's something wrong here. But even the debug, the logs of C++, it tells you if there's where exactly what line, um, what kind of error it is. So there's that. Finally, better error handling. You may not have practiced error handling that much using assert or throw, which is like if you want to check a if you're able to do this function or whatnot. If an error happens, it will throw. You will do the throw part of the code. No, so you may not have done this before, but it does the error handling better, right? So that's why you C++. If there's any questions, are there any questions? None. Let's go. So there's the reason why you'd want to use C++. There's also the reason why I wouldn't want to use C++. So the thing about C++ is it's a lot of boilerplate code. You need and weird codes, right? You need to when you mean boilerplate codes, it's a code that you need to set up for the C++, and there's lots of it. Not only in creating the project, but also in creating a class. There's a boilerplate code. You need to set up these things, especially when you want to put components, no? The code for creating components, they're all the same. And it's not just one line, but at most three lines just to create the component and to attach it properly. And you need ayun, so there's that. Next, it's slow and buggy autocomplete. So uh yeah. So for this one, you are in the mercy of Visual Studios. Well, let's say we're talking about Visual Studio. You're at the mercy of Visual Studios um autocomplete feature because it tries to read everything. It tries to read all the files. Now, what you learn that when you create a project, a C++ project in Unreal, what you learn that you will actually have access to the base code of Unreal Engine. You actually can access the files of the components of the Unreal object of the actors. You actually have access to that. You can see how they coded it and stuff. And the thing is, Unreal Engine, I mean, sorry, Visual Studio reads through that also. So in order for it to autocomplete, it will have to check first if in that class, what are the feature, the, sorry, not features, but functions and methods that it has, then, then it will autocomplete. So macros also do not autocomplete. So when I mean macros, there are some code here where i- it's it's not a function at all. It's just a macro of the of Unreal Engine in C++. No, so there's that. So you have to memorize these. Uh, and then sometimes the Visual Studio will actually have take a while until it finally finds out that hey, there's something wrong here. Because again, you're at the mercy of Visual Studio. It's kind of yeah, here pala. So the compile time, compiling tech in Unreal takes a while. It has to compile, it has to read everything, it has to make sure everything is right until if it's everything's right, then it finally compiles successfully. Now, the thing is, this part is kind of like a pay to win kind of thing. As long as you have SSD, it will be much faster in compiling compared to HDD. So that's the pay to win part. As long as you have a SSD where read and write is high, then your compile time will be faster. If it's HDD, the read and write is considerably way slower than SSD. The compile time will be slower. There may be also a connection with the CPU, but I think it's more of the storage. Next, Visual Studio needs to parse thousands of files on first launch. Like I said, it creates on the very first launch, it creates all the files, including all the base code of Unreal Engine. Then uh, include what you use. So this is basically C++, where you need, it's not like C sharp where you can automatically just call this function and then C sharp will automatically create the proper code, line of code sa taas to include yung class na gusto mo gamitin. In here, you have to manually type it yourself. You have to manually type include um, pound number sign, include, and then whatever class that you need to use. Then you need to practice forward declaring here. You should not include yung mga classes na gawa mo in the other classes. Why? Because you are prone to circular dependency, where this class is dependent on this class, but it's also dependent on that same class. So there's that. So you need to practice forward declaring, whatnot. But we'll talk about that when we get there. Finally, some parts of the API is counterintuitive. So again, there are some that are created in macro. There are even some functions that are not even under that it's not gonna autocomplete for you at all, but it is an actual function of Unreal C++. Okay, questions here? None. All right. So best practices. So again, these are not something that you have to memorize. All right. You won't have a quiz out of nowhere on why I hate it or why I like the C++. I won't have that kind of thing. So also this one, you don't have to memorize, but it is a good to know kind of thing. So best practices. Most of your base classes should be written in C++. There may be a time that maybe you think that hey, maybe a a coding this in C++ will be much faster in Blueprint. So there will be times na ganun. Uh, so it should be better na you create the base class in C++. You can choose to have it blank. You can choose to have the components right there. Okay. Next, prototype with Blueprint. Compile time will kill your productivity. So like I said, compiling may take a while, and it kind of breaks your flow when you try to compile because it may take a minute. It may take more than a minute at most. It could take maybe 5 minutes just to compile, and that will break your productivity. You're not gonna be in that state of flow anymore. So if you want to prototype, better you do it in Blueprint muna. If you see that it works in Blueprint, then you can choose to do it in C++. Up to you. Okay. Next, to do prevent pre-parenting, always start with a C++ class. Same thing as what I said in the first part. Uh, so that you know you're ready. You'll be ready to create the C++ of it. Next, you cannot access blueprint classes via C++. So you have to know that C++ cannot read anything that you've created in the project. When I mean anything, when I say like it cannot see the C++ cannot see the assets that you have. It cannot see the blueprints that you've created. Wala. It can only access the C++ things. So you can only communicate with C++ base types. Next, expose what is only needed. This is a general idea for when coding. You only want to expose what is needed. Everything should not always have to be public. If you think that a function only works for this class, then you can have it private. If you think that the child classes need to have access to this, then make it protected. If you think that classes outside of the C++ will need the function, then make it public. It's basically just, coding practicing, coding practice, coding practice. Next, expose implementable events. This is the most reliable way to respond to the base class events. So you'll find out about implementable events. It basically is a function. You created a function in C++, but how it works, how you implement it is done in Blueprint. So you'll learn more about that. So anything that is visual or playing sounds should be written in Blueprint. You do not want to code in C++ to manually find a certain file in this certain folder, no? Better you do it in Blueprint. So, yung play sound or yung um, particle play the particle system, you should do that in Blueprint instead. Next, create the required components in code. So again, this is just so you can see right away what a class is made out of. You'll learn kasi that in when creating a C++ class, it's not like creating an actor in Blueprint where it automatically has a um scene component right away. In C++, you are literally it is literally blank. You have to make your own scene component because you have to set the root manually pa. Next, link assets via Blueprint. Again, you don't want to find it in C++ mismo. Better to just do it in Blueprint in the editor. Next, there are tools that only exist in Blueprint. So there are some tools like the delay, no? Delay for something X seconds. Ayun. Those are things that are accessible only in Blueprint and better to make use of it rather than having to create your own code for it pa. There are more code. There are more functions that are available in Blueprint and not available in C++. So use them when necessary. Next, handle errors or fail safes in code as much as possible. Um, Again, it's about error handling, but you may or may not have done it yourself. But it's a good thing to learn. Well, it helps you to do it. It also it's you'll be also using it in in when you start working though. You have to learn how to do error handling. Finally, compile your code via Unreal Engine. As much as possible, do it in Unreal Engine, not in Visual Studio, because at least in Unreal Engine, it tells you exactly where the error is happening and why it cannot compile in this certain line. Questions for best practices? None. Okay. So yeah. So should you just use C++? Should you just use Blueprint? The answer is they're both are meant to use together. I think you should use both C++ and Blueprint. You don't have to manually just focus. You don't have to just focus in just one. Sure, Blueprint has more not optimization. Blueprint is faster in prototyping, but at least in C++, you have it's the most flexible. You're able to do lots of things in C++, and it's much more also readable. Unlike in Blueprint, you can go spaghetti. You can go wherever the line goes. But at least in C++, it's always from top to bottom. All right. So questions at all? Any questions from that? None. Okay. So what am I gonna go through? You don't have to memorize it, but you may have to go back to these slides. If you want, take a picture of it if you want. But you're gonna have to go back to this when you start coding. All right. So one thing to learn is that it's not like just a normal when creating a C++ class. Ganun na yun. In here, you have to use the Unreal Reflection system. What is this? It is the system where Unreal is able to read this code and um and to make it work in Unreal Engine. So what this has is it has some macros. It uses it'll show to show you mga data types, properties, and functions in Unreal Engine inside the editor mismo. So one, you have the U class. So it tells you this is the part where you can tell whether it is a blueprintable or maybe it's not. Ayun. So it creates the reflection data for the class. U struct, it reflects if maybe instead of it'll be a struct. So when you do make it as U struct, it will appear in Unreal Engine in the editor as a struct. Without it, it cannot read it. It cannot be shown. It cannot be like set yung mga data na yun in the editor. Next, you have view property. So if you have a variable and you want to expose it in Unreal Engine in the editor, then you have to put view property. It tells the game engine that this property is a property that can be used for the editor. Then you have view function. So same thing like view property, it'll appear in the uh, editor. You're going to be able to make it either a callable one or an implementable event kind of function. Ayan. Then generated body. So when you create a C++ class, generated body is automatically added. This is a boilerplate code. It has the code on how to create that this is the actor and something whatnot. It uses this whatever whatnot other stuff. So automatic siyang ginagawa. You're not gonna touch it anyway. It's just there. Okay, questions here for Unreal Reflection System. If none, we can continue. Prefixes. So these are the letters that you'll find at the start of a function or a property. And it tells you what kind of data type it is. So if it has a T, so like T array, mga ganun, it is a template class. It is something that you can use, no. But so far it's only T array, that if I recall. Yun lang yung naalala ko na may T. Then you have U. So if it's U, you know that it inherits from U object and U actor component. So if the class name is U spring arm component, you know that it is a actor component. Or um U camera component, yung mga ganun. So there's that. If it's A, you know that it inherits from the actor. So um a actor or a a character, ayun. So you know that it came from the actor class. If it's S, it comes from the widget. You may not use it that much. I haven't used S naman at all. E is for enum. So if you see that it has the E, then you know that it has some values that you can use. Um, you use this like for the collision handling, E collision handling, colon colon, and then you have access to um, yung mga values niya. If it has a B, then you know it's just true or false because it's just a boolean. If it's F, it's a uncategorized classes. This is mostly used when creating a event dispatcher. So far, yun lang man yung naalala ko for F. Now, these prefixes are actually stripped off when in the editor. So you like use spring arm component, right? However, in the editor, it's just spring arm component, or let's say U health component. In the editor, it'll just appear as health component. So nawawala yung prefix. Okay? You don't have to memorize it, but good to know. So if you see that it's A something, you know it's from the actor. If it has E, okay, it has enum, it has some data or values that I can use. B, of course, true or false. Questions here for prefixes? None. Okay. So let's go with U property. U property, uh, again, it tells you, if it tells the editor that it is a property. So in here, uh, for it to be accessible again in the editor, you need to set it as U property. Without it, it will not appear in the editor at all. Then you can also modify the nature or accessibility for each property. You can set it if you can edit it anywhere, like edit the value in the editor or in the blueprint. Or if you want, if not edit anywhere, you can make it visible anywhere so that it'll appear there, but you cannot edit it at all. So that's visible anywhere. Then you can choose to make it like a read write. So you know how when you try to call a variable in the blueprint, there's get or set. So that is the read write. If you only want it as a getter and there's no set in blueprint, it will just be blueprint read only. But if you want to have, uh, if you want to be able to set the code, set the value within blueprint, then you have read write. And then also we have category. So we're gonna talk about this more here in the next slide. Yeah, category is just to bunch up all the properties in one whole tab under the editor. So if it's under damage, then all the variables that are damage related will appear in that tab in the editor. So there are more specifiers. This is what you call specifiers. There are more of these in if you search it. Okay. Question so far with the specifiers? None? Okay. Then we have ufunction. So functions can be called directly via Blueprint. Have to mark it as a ufunction. So the moment you have ufunction, then Unreal knows what to do with it. Now, again, base yun sa specifiers niya. You have Blueprint callable. So if you just want to have the function be callable in the game, like you can call the function, ayun, you put it as Blueprint callable. If you want the blueprint to be implemented in the blueprint, then you have to use blueprint implementable event. So what this does is you are able to call the functions in the function in C++, but how it works, how it's implemented is actually done via blueprint. So that is blueprint implementable event. Then you have native event. It is similar to both implementable event uh, and blueprint callable. All right. Then finally, Blueprint Pure. So Blueprint Pure is it's like a function, but you create that function to calculate something for you and then give out a value. So it's not a void function. It is a function that returns a data type. So we either want it string or int, float, whatnot. Ayun. So how it will appear is it's just like a property, but it's a function. I'm not sure if you've used it in GAMPRG1, but I will show you next week the pure blueprint pure. All right, questions? None. Hold on. Okay. So next, U object. So you won't use or call U object at all, or maybe you'll be probably using its functions and properties. Yeah, most probably that one. But you don't actually like call U object mismo. So again, everything is mostly a U object. It is the base building block of Unreal Engine. It handles the reflection of properties and methods, the serialization of properties, garbage collection. So remember in C++ where you have to delete the yung mga pointers, yung mga reference na pointers if you're not going to use it anymore. U object handles it by itself. So if you created a new instance, no, U object handles the how it is deleted and whatnot. It also has the finding U objects by name. It has configurable values for properties such as not just the transform, but even the um call this when it comes for the online settings. It's not reflection. Basta yun. It has those variables. Networking, and it also has networking support. Okay, so that's U object. It's just the base building block of Unreal Engine. Then you have a actor. So A actor, it's actor in the gameplay framework. Uh, Before it can be placed though, it needs to have at least one scene component or using component. Because like I said a while ago, when you create a actor in Blueprint, matic matic na may scene component yung root. But in C++, it is actually blank. You yourself have to create the root component. So you have to code it yourself. So to spawn an actor, you must call uworld spawn actor. To call it, you need to call destroy. So unlike in Unity, where in order to destroy a object, it will be destroy and then open parenthesis and then the object, the game object itself. In here in Unreal Engine, it's a function of a actor. So in order to delete an actor, you need to like let's say on the current class now, it will be like this arrow destroy or uh yeah, this arrow destroy or whatever you want to destroy the class, the object. Actors have events called during its life cycle. So remember, everything has always like begin play, tick, end play, and there's more. It has more other functions that are called during the life cycle. On activate, ayun, may mga ganun. Then you also have UActor components. So remember, UActor components is the components that you place in the actor. So these are pluggable components with encapsulated. Uh, Components can be shared by different actors. So when you create a actor component, anyone can use it. Naman. Anyone, either an actor or character, they can use the component. So A actors handle high-level goals for the object while actor components perform individual tasks. What this mean is A actor handles um, the overall object, but actor components, it is the small parts. So if you want to like compartmentalize the the functionalities, no, like for health component, for the health, instead of just having its functions within the actor, you could create a whole actor component that handles health. Like what happens if it reaches zero, it'll call an event dispatcher. Or if you take damage, it will decrease but something something. Ayun, we use the actor component. So the main task of this component, let's say the health component, is to act as an health. It will have all its functions in it regarding health. So actor answers the question what, while the components answers the question what is this thing made of. That's why we have, let's say, like yung ano, kahit yung mga colliders, yung sphere component or the box collider, right? You know right away that this is an actor that is either has a trigger or it has a collision. Yung mga ganun. Uh, Components can be arranged in a hierarchy. So remember in Blueprint, you can always move around the the components. Like you can make it as a child of this. You can attach it to this other component. So same thing. It can also be done in C++. You can choose to attach components to other components. So a actor has a root component property, which means that it will just give out which is the root component of the actor. So whatever you set the root component, because you have to do that, set root actor component. That is a function. Oh, and you have to specify what component is the root. When you do that, then root component will just give out that component that you just specified as the root component. Next, using components gives you component transform. A actor component must be a using component. So, uh, yeah, every everything that you create naman na actor component, it is under using component. Okay, given na yun. Finally, components are ticked along with the owning actor. Uh, every tick that happens in the scene component, in the actor component, is also connected to the tick in the actor that the component is attached to. Questions? Clarification? You don't have to memorize this one. The other ones the ones before this, yeah. This one, not really. None. So like here, example. The capsule component is a scene component. Like I said, they're all active components are under scene components. Then you see the hierarchy here, the how the camera component is attached to the capsule component. Then you have the mesh one that is attached to the first person and the camera component. So this is the hierarchy. You're able to manipulate this in C++. However, in Blueprint, whatever is set in C++, you can't really move it around in Blueprint. Unless you create your own component, and then sure, you can move it around. You notice also here the character movement is not attached to anything because this this component handles the character movement. Uh, it doesn't necessarily have to be attached to any of the other components. It's for the actor itself. So primitive data types. Um, there are some data types in Unreal that it uses its own. So like tcar. Tcar is a data type that replaces char. Instead of string in C++, you have fstring. Fstring also has some functions that you can use naman. You have instead of int, you use int32. This allows to make it compatible for other platforms. Then float is still float, double is still double. You don't have to memorize this. There are very rare cases that use tcar naman. Fstring, you may be using it from time to time, not always. But int32, I think make sure to remember int32 instead of just int. So fstring, it allows it to be interactable within the blueprint or the editor. Uh, so we use the text macro to build your string. So you'll see here that fstring instead of fstring tapos the actual string itself, you need to put text pa. So medyo hassle nga lang when doing this. However, it is not always the case naman. There are times that you can just put the actual string. You don't have to put fstring pa and text. May mga ganun na cases. Then you have t-array, which is literally just vector, but more powerful and more efficient than just vector. It it is also usable for Blueprint. It'll appear as an array in Blueprint instead of just the normal array, no. Uh, more powerful initialization usage is similar to vector. Yeah, said that. Iterate using the ranged for feature. So in order to go through the elements within the T array. you need to use the for loop. Sure, you can do the brackets, but if you want to iterate through everything, you use a for loop. And finally, you have like team maps. Oh, wait, there's more pa. You have the team maps and T sets. So these are data types for um, for arrays. However, these are more like when it comes to optimization. You won't be using it naman in this in this course, but it's good to know. Team map and T set. These are really powerful um, data types as well. Containers, sorry. Garbage collection is again handled by Unreal Engine. They you don't have to delete it yourself mismo. It's handled by Unreal Engine. That's all you have to know lang naman about the garbage collection. So again, just use destroy to destroy the object, and then Unreal Engine handles everything for it. It handles the deletion of the components. It handles the deletion of the actor itself. Ayan. So yeah, that's it. That's it for this C++. So again, you don't have to memorize everything. You will probably go back to the specifiers, because this is the one that creates yung how it shows up in Unreal Engine. You'll probably have to remember this. This one, medyo, so that you kind of know what it is. If it's E or B, mga ganun. Everything else, it's good to know basis. Questions? Clarification about anything that we just talked about? So it was ayun ko medyo that was a lot to go through, no? I know that as well, but you just have to go through this naman. Para next week we can go straight to coding. Okay? No questions or clarification? None. Okay. So yeah, next week we will be coding na. Of course it'll be recorded. So make sure you have Unreal Engine 4 5.4 on you. You make sure you have Visual Studio, and then I'll teach you guys how to be able to create your project, um, the difference of the specifiers. So I'll be teaching that next week. So if you don't have any questions or concerns, that's it for today lang naman. This is a recording. I will post it naman sometime this week in case anyone has missed anything. Okay? So yeah, that's it for today. You guys can enjoy your night. Thank you everyone for coming in.
Sige, sir.
Thank
Ay,
you.
sir, tama po ba yung pinasok ko? Na-late ako ng pasok, eh. Pero OTIE po 'to 'no?
Yeah.
Monday to
So, OTIE 1 to. Yung Thursday
okey po,
was
sir.
BTIE 1. Yeah.
Sige po. Medyo may made-delay po ako na message diyan pero tinanong ko lang kung recorded, sir, yung video.
Video? Yeah, recorded
Itong
naman.
itong podcast po.
Yeah.
Okey. Sige,
Recorded
sir.
one.
Sige po, thank you.
All right.